to Teacher Talks, a podcast where teachers from the Shorewood School District come together to share their knowledge around current topics. We have created this podcast to connect with students and the community during this time of school closure due to the coronavirus. I'm Mr. Kearns, math teacher at Shorewood High School.
And I'm Mr. Nadolski, a math teacher at Shorewood Intermediate School. One of the silver linings, if you will, of the school closure is it has really forced us teachers to be especially innovative and creative in different ways to reach our students. Today's guest, Sam Prystawik, had an especially creative and innovative way to reach some of her students by hosting a book club. And so today's guest is Sam P., we'll call her, because now we have two Sams in our podcast today. Sam, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, Sam, it's great to talk to you again. It's been a while. How are you doing? How has the first couple of days of virtual learning gone for you?
Just messy. And I think we're all in that place of this is going to be a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of student emails, just read the directions over, you'll figure it out. Luckily, I think SIS has focused a lot on technology use. We use it a ton in the classrooms already. So I think for the most part, our kids were kind of used to it, but it's just amped up a little bit.
Sure. So what gave you this idea, I guess, to start a virtual book club? That's so cool, and I'm so interested in learning more about that.
Yeah, I think I've always wanted to do book clubs just normally at school. I teach a reading intervention with special ed students, and also am in the regular language arts classroom. So I love engaging in book discussions with students. And one of the books we're doing, Born a Crime by Trevor Noah, my students have been asking to read for quite a while now. And I recently bought a ton of book collections, so a bunch of different copies of books through a website called First Book. It's really great. It has super cheap books that are all categorized by diversity and topic, and it's a cool resource. So I just had these on my shelf, and when we found out about the closures, I just started throwing them at kids and take a book, take a book, take a book. As in just, I knew I wanted to be able to stay connected with them, and this was a great time to be able to read these books that we've kind of been pushing off because of just regular schoolwork and things like that. So.
Yeah, that's so. One of the questions I have for you, because I've heard you say that about you got the books in students' hands. So what was the timing of that? Because we found out Friday at 1:30 that we were going to be closed for 3 weeks. Did you run around frantically handing out books, or had you handed out books before that in anticipation of a closure?
No, it was that moment. So I was in my room working with a small group of kids. I was co-teaching a language arts class, and I got the email. We were working on capstone stuff, but we were kind of anticipating this a little bit. So I got the email. I'm oh my gosh, what do I do? And then I looked at my bookshelf, and I had some of the students that I worked with reading in my room already. I'm let's do a book club. I don't know where it came from. I think it's just wanting to do it for so long and knowing that this might be a good spot to do it. So I started handing it out to a few students, and then that was 8th hour, and then 9th hour I had prep. So I was literally walking around the school with this pile of books, just anyone I saw, I just handed them a book. I'm check your email, I'll give you the details later. And then they kind of shared it with some of their friends, and I had kids coming in after school signing up. So just kind of went from there. And then the first few days that we were off, Miss Krieger posted on all the language arts Google classrooms that this was available to kids. So we had some additional kids joining after that too. Yeah.
Wow, that spur of the moment process to do that. Only a teacher, and I think that's so cool that you can do that. Question: so now all the students have the books. We've been gone for a couple of weeks. How have you managed to kind of maintain conversation with them? How has the book club kind of evolved since then?
Mm-hmm. I think it's been really successful just because the kids are so into it. The first week I sent out an email just with the pages or the chapters that they should read for our first book meeting. One of the clubs meets on Thursdays, and then the other one meets on Fridays over Zoom. So they have like the week to read up to whatever they were supposed to. And then we get together on Zoom, and I have like some questions that I prepare ahead of time. But really it's just like a conversation about the book and what we read. I think both of the books are really like, they're easy to talk about and easy to have a discussion about. Born a Crime just like brings in so many like real life like social issues that I think kids like have been wanting to talk about, and a lot of the kids in this group have been wanting to talk about. So naturally that book just engages them in really cool conversations. And it's put like this whole situation into perspective, like quite a bit, just hearing about like his life growing up in South Africa during apartheid, just like really like makes you understand what we have and like how blessed we are. And then the other book is like a mystery novel that's written by the same author that wrote Pretty Little Liars. So that book is just like fun to talk about because we have no idea what's going on. It's a murder mystery. It's like teen drama. So that group is full of 8th grade girls. So it's a really great book club, and it's definitely an interesting discussion every week.
So you've had Zoom meetings, and I saw a picture of both of yours posted on the district webpage. So cool shout out there. What have you learned hosting a large group Zoom meeting? Like what works, what doesn't? What advice do you have for teachers that are about to embark on their large group Zoom meetings?
First and foremost, like just be okay with the uncomfortable, like awkward wait time. I know like teachers in general are pretty good with wait time, but it's super awkward on Zoom because we're all just kind of like staring at each other waiting to talk. Because I don't want to like force any student to talk if they don't want to share or uncomfortable with that. So I've definitely like utilized more of the tools on Zoom, like the reactions, so that kids can acknowledge something that someone else has said without actually having to speak, or using the chat box and things like that. For the most part, yeah, there you go, that's perfect. For the most part, they've been pretty good. I think these kids already had a connection and relationship before we started the book club, so they're pretty open to speak. And I just like to like talk a lot, and I'll just like throw in jokes and random things that I hope is getting the kids like more engaged with it.
Do you anticipate that like this is a format that is going to continue on? Like what if when we go back to school, are you still going to want to host book clubs? Like has it hooked you on it?
I would love to. I mean, I think I'm going to run into the same like issue I had before with getting this started, is that like we just have so many things going on in the school day, and it's super hard to like find that time unless it's built into the curriculum. And I know in 8th grade language arts, we do a banned book club towards the end of the year. So like that's naturally coming up right now, which is really cool, but I would love to like engage more in that. It's just finding the time and the space to be able to do that.
Great.
So with that time, and now we are kind of starting virtual learning here, what does that look like for you, kind of as a special education teacher? How are we going to support our special ed students during this time of virtual learning?
Yeah, I think that's a question a lot of us are trying to figure out right now. It's been a little disheartening, like hearing from state level and just like nationwide, the response to special ed, which has been minimal, which is why it's frustrating, because again, in our minds, and I think in all educators' minds, like special ed students, we're concerned about like how this is going to look for them and how it's going to work for them. Kids who already have a difficult time communicating or have difficulties with homework and work and things like that. So definitely some discussions like just within my team about how to support that. I think for the first 2 weeks or so, we're just reaching out to all the general ed teachers like we normally would. We're a huge co-teaching centered school, so we already like have those connections and we already know the curriculum pretty well. which makes going into this a little easier. And just talking to them about how we can support our kids, whether it's making accommodations. We've done some like audio recording for any of the readings that we've had to do. We found some like Google Chrome extensions or websites that might help them to like bring the content to their level. But right now we're just trying to like scour the internet for as many sources that we can find. And then moving forward, we're really trying to figure out how are we going to give specialized instruction to our kids, because that's not as easy as just giving them a computer program or even just like assigning them something online. It's really like it needs to be face-to-face in order for it to be beneficial for the student.
So I've been spending a lot of time like on those same topics, but specifically related to math instruction. And I know Stephen and I have talked a lot about what are some different philosophies and ways that we can support math learners virtually. Are there like conflicting camps in the special ed realm of like, how are we going to move forward supporting special ed students?
I think when it comes down to it, we're centered on like what we want for our kids. I think we're getting into just what resources all of us individually have available to us and like how we're able to do that like at home. Because I mean, for me, it's easy. I don't sit and like be on my computer all day if I really wanted to, but there's a lot of other special ed teachers that like don't have that luxury. So as I said before, like it really is going to come down to being able to sit with our students one-on-one. And I've trialed that this week, just meeting with a few of my reading students, and I have been able to do my reading intervention over Zoom, which was really nice, but I have like 15 students that I need to do that for at least 3 times a week. So for me, I can fit that into my schedule, but there are some teachers that just can't, and it's not really fair to put that on them and expect them to do that when they just have no control over that situation. So trying to find like creative ways around that and definitely teaming up more to help each other out. And while I normally wouldn't do like math support at SIS, like reaching out and doing some of that too, so we can all like kind of come together and support our students collectively.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to have to like share that burden a little bit. I think as everyone's got different arrangements at home, and I know Stephen and I again have talked about that. Like we are sort of in a similar place where we've had a lot of time to explore new technology and new approaches, and we know that a lot of our colleagues haven't had that much time to do that. So you mentioned that you haven't gotten a lot of guidance from the state on like what are some of the logistics of supporting students. I'm wondering, like, is the expectation of supporting, the requirements of a student's IEP or 504, is that expected to be maintained for the rest of the year?
As much as we can right now, for basically, since every student is not required to complete these additional activities or these virtual learning activities, we don't have to like stick to our IEP minutes, because like they're not missing out on instruction like every other student. It's all optional. When we get to the point where it's required work and it's new content, that's when we're going to have to maintain like our regular IEP minutes, our regular IEP and 504 accommodations. We're still expected to hold our IEP meetings and like meet deadlines on that. So we've been doing IEP meetings over Zoom or Google Hangouts too, and still like getting all the paperwork done in time. It's looked a little different on what like the wording is, and we've kind of had to put some blurbs in there about like this weird time that we're in, and that like IEP minutes might be a little different because of this. And I mean, when it comes down to it, like the parents have been very, very understanding and have been so grateful for anything we can do right now. So as long as we're good with them and with our students, I think that's what's most important right now.
Yeah, I guess how can general ed teachers support special ed teachers and special ed students in this process, I guess? What can we do to help you guys out as math teachers or as any general ed teacher?
I think just continuing to like stay in communication with the special ed teachers, it's easier right now because we have co-teaching, but just keeping them up to date with what your activities you're assigning so that we could foresee any potential issues that our students might have or any additional ways we can support them. I think having, like for my kids, just having like things that are very simple and not like overwhelming them. And I think that's for any kid, just not giving them like 5 different sites to go to for an assignment, just really keeping it simple and sticking to like one platform that you're going to use for your assignments. As long as we can like cut down on that, I think it's a lot easier for them to get there.
Cool. Yeah, finding the unicorn platform that works for everything has certainly been my goal for the last 2 weeks, and it's been a little frustrating.
It's not an easy thing to do for sure.
It's very tempting to say, well, this one works great for this thing, and this other one works for this other thing. So let's just have students sign up for 3 or 4 different platforms, and we know that that's not great for any student. So I like the keep it simple. It sounds like a good mantra as we move into virtual learning.
Yeah. Even like this week, we sent out all of the students like a general, here's a weekly learning activities for each subject. And then the special ed department sent our students some like more specific skill-based activities that they could do. And we're like, yeah, this is a great idea. It'll like make sure kids are working on the skills they need to and not like focusing on these broad things. And then as soon as I sent it out on Monday, I got a call from one of my parents, and they're like, which document do I go to? Which activities do I do? There's like so many of them. Like, oh yeah, there are a lot. I should probably give you a list of like things to focus on. That would be smart. So
the focus is like, what should we focus on? And I've been hearing that a lot from parents too. Is like, how do we manage all of this? And then a lot of families have 2, 3, 4 kids at home that are getting all those different levels of assignments and feedback. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that we'll just have to overcome as a profession for the next few months.
Yeah, it's a learning curve for all of us, teachers and students. So we thank everyone for kind of being patient with us as we go through this. Thank you, Sam, for joining us today. We're going to move on to the Shorewood shout out. The goal of the Shorewood shout out is to give praise and shine light on positive news that we hear of going on in the Shorewood community. So Sam, do you want to give your Shorewood shout out?
It's time for your Shorewood shout out.
Yeah, so our Shorewood shout out today is the virtual Spirit Week that is going on. And I think this is something that's going on across the country probably, but I know that there's a post to it on the Shorewood School District Facebook page. And today's theme for Virtual Spirit Week is the book selfie. So there's lots of very adorable pictures of students posing with what books they're reading right now.
This is my book club books.
Awesome. So I just want to shout out to that. Again, we're seeing a lot of innovative ways that teachers and schools are trying to reach out and stay connected with students, keeping them engaged in reading and in their learning. So a shout out to the Virtual Spirit Week. Sam, thank you again for joining us. It was really great to have you. Stephen, it was nice to record with you again. And I hope everyone in Shorewood is staying healthy and staying home.